apocalypse is coming. Will it be aliens, zombies, or a global financial meltdown? Whatever it is, you need to be prepared.
Get your complete apocalypse kit at Ammunition. Contains foodstuffs and alcohol for 3 months. A massive array of armaments. Water purifier so you can drink your own urine. And cyanide pills so you can go out like a man. Don't dial 911, dial 357. Ammunition. Protecting your rights.
Ammunition. Protecting your rights from the apocalypse. Now I ask you, why the fuck would they even say that if there was not other things in the fucking game? In this episode, you guys, we will figure out why retro gaming is important. Alright, before we do get into this video, you guys, I want to make one thing clear to all the Whizzle fans out there, and that is, I wasn't trying to debunk his fucking video about the bank, alright, and it being the egg. What I was showing is a new point of view, and that is, it's not the fucking bank, okay? It is tied to all of the aspects that I've been talking about in this fucking mystery, and that is flowers, water, and fucking frequencies, okay? All this shit is tied to sacred geometry and what is told through a top-down perspective, and how we understood that was looking at the fountain in a certain fucking way. But either way, it all ties way back to fucking water, okay? And all the things that I was talking about a long time ago. But that's not why I brought you here in particular. One reason I brought you here, okay, is about Pac-Man and the origins of his symbolism. Not only is it tied to power, okay, within significance, I want you to take a big note into his origin as a game, okay? Now, I will bring up reason to why I'm tying him to GTA, but I want you to really pay attention to some shit here, and that is not only the blue, the aspect of him being sun yellow, and I want you to pay attention to the Atari 2600, because throughout the video I will show you a bunch of different significant reasons on why Atari 2600 is very relevant, but also why it ties things together.
Yeah, you got damn right.
And I continue the mission. Go Postal. Remember that. It will be in a future episode. A future episode is now, because we will be understanding what all of these aspects of retro gaming mean. But a lot of the main things that they were trying to teach us apparently had to do with a badger. Now, Badger is noted to be a cell phone company within GTA, but it is also a few other things, not only within GTA, but within symbolism, and also something that is a mirrored image of GTA. And this is Postal Dude. If a lot of people have never heard of this character, then you've possibly never heard of the game Postal. Now, what I believe that GTA is going with this whole reference toward Postal is somewhat of a reference of the game that we have already come to a conclusion about, but I believe that this only gives us more relevance to look at not only retro games, but to look at aspects that, you know, we've already known to be part of the mystery. And that has to do with aspects of a red head, bringing evil and lies. Postal Dude, and Postal for that matter, is a game about none other than the apocalypse. But what's even more interesting is the aspect of all of these elements that have gone to make Postal what it is. And one key element of Postal is somewhat of something that we've known to love in the game, that is having a pet companion. Now, what's interesting is that Postal, you have a pet dog named Champ, and he looks pretty familiar, if not resembling Chop. Possibly a Peach version of Chop. Now, don't be confused with the fact that I'm mentioning Pit Bull here and Chop is a Rottweiler. I want you to be focused on the fact that this game is mostly derived, once again, off of the apocalypse, okay? It's a post-apocalyptic game that is about none other than karma. It's about choosing the paths in between, evil and good. The whole premise behind causing mayhem was up to the choice of the player. It was very noted within the game, though, that there were a few things about Postal Dude that are actually something in common with the characters that we had with the Mystery, GTA, and now Postal. But one thing that's pretty interesting are the things that we have in common, aside from just a pet companion. But with this redhead, we have aspects of extraterrestrials, green ones at that. But also, we have aspects of happiness and a cock. Okay? Now, what's even more interesting are the points of a desert, just like Trevor. And also, they both are in a trailer. Now, you guys, there are several things within this game that are tied straight towards Postal. And I think the entire point here is to pay attention, okay? It's not only to pay attention to old games, but to pay attention to things that they have brought up in the game to give you understanding. And that is what we are possibly heading for, and that's the apocalypse. The fact that they would mention it in a trailer about guns and other survival material, it only gives you more leeway to the fact that we really need to survive. Now, even understanding aspects of the weapons within Postal, we can understand connections, and the connections are supposed to bring correlations. The correlations bring more understanding, and that understanding brings connections right back into the game, okay? Which is why we can understand things that we have in the game, like a gasoline can, a taser, and an axe. But these are connections to bring relation to the game. Now that we know that they're relevant, we can make one more relation back into the game. And that is that Badger is relevant in more ways than one. And a Badger saw within Postal is a very relevant weapon, given that it mauls down most opponents with its mounted position of a motorized weapon. This can go within duality of the main weapon that they keep implying Trevor to use, and that is a minigun and or a chainsaw gun. This all can go within duality of why they mention a few things within the Epsilon tract, why they mention the man within red hair form, that being the Red Dead Redemption sense of the history of GTA and the actual red hair, the rabbit. But this can go within duality of the man of red and the literal hair of Rose, and why they mention to go Postal. Now, there are more references within Postal that we need to understand, like choosing bad paths or good paths, because karma is a huge thing within Postal, and it is one more reason why we needed to pay attention to a retro game. Okay, so now that we understand that basically that flower of life shit is the same shit that I've been talking about literally for like 80 videos, and why there's so many fucking flowers around Michael's house, you know, okay, water. I want to bring your attention to something that's really kind of hidden over here. And it kind of proves my point about them taking dualities of certain things that are tied to retro gaming. As you see, there's a clear reference to Space Invaders. Okay? Clear. Now, I need you to understand that. That is deliberate. They are not copying any fucking body else but Space Invaders. Now, what's interesting about Space Invaders is, so now what we're looking at here is Space Invaders. Now, one thing you'll notice is that, yes, Space Invaders is about an alien invasion, okay? But this alien invasion has a few things that we've noted to be in the game and the aspects of the mystery, like the colors, every single one of them, from blue to brass and or gold to purple to green to red and even cyan. All of these colors are all tied to the mystery and all tied to things we need to understand. Now, the point here is to make another correlation, and that is that we have a UFO right above a bunker within GTA. And what's very interesting is that this is the boss within Space Invaders. This sprite. And it looks very, very familiar, you guys. And to me, I feel as though this is the reference of the Fort Zancudo UFO. And why it's above a fortress and or bunker. Okay. Now, what's even more interesting about Space Invaders is the actual description, and it actually ties to correlations within the game and things that we have. Now, aside from the numerical aspect of the date it was released in being 7 and 8, now understanding the spiritual aspect of 7 and 8 is understanding a God aspect and an evil aspect of infinity. Okay. One thing most noted within Space Invaders is the description, and that you are to defeat waves of aliens with a laser cannon. A laser cannon, you guys. Now I ask you, why is it that within San Andreas and GTA 5 we have a airplane and or jet called the Laser, the P99-6 Laser? When inverted of the 9s, you get 666. And what's interesting about this jet is that it has cannons. Now, am I saying that we need to use the jet to hit the damn spacecraft? No, Trippy has done that. But I also am saying that we have not looked at all of the elements before doing a lot of these things. So who's to say that Trippy wasn't right about his idea, but hasn't done a lot of the steps before doing it? This can go with an understanding that we need to gain knowledge first. But the point here is to understand that retro games are tying correlations, possibly the things we need to do and why that light shows up above a bunker. But one thing that we are honestly making the correlation to is the fact that they make a reference towards Space Invaders. Those characters within GTA 5, the actual sprites that they are making a reference towards, are nothing more than Space Invaders. No other game. Now the point here is that they would make no other reference if they were not trying to tell us to pay attention to the game. Now, one thing I want to make very known here is that Trevor, when he wakes up from either an hallucination or when he wakes up randomly, one of the main places that he wakes up is in this courtyard. If you don't recognize it, maybe some of you do. Sometimes he's laying randomly on the floor here before walking out. Now, I think there's a reason why they keep pointing here. And I think the reason why is tied to aspects of looking at a bird's eye view. Not only can we understand that Badger is right in front of this place, but understanding that from a top-down position, it actually gives some leeway of understanding, like dual tennis courts. Now, I will get into why these dual tennis courts are possibly pointing us towards something we were supposed to understand that has to do with things I've already shown you. But before that, I want you to understand the Holy Grail and or chalice. Now, this is one more correlation we were supposed to understand. And it was the earliest representation of a video game and table tennis and or tennis in general. It is Pong. Okay? And this is one reason why I mentioned it in my last video. This was so you guys can be implied to look something up. I wonder how many of you actually did. Now, understanding Pong is just one understanding. We need to understand the fact that it ties things together with not only things that they're implying in the game. This is why we don't have basketball, why we don't have football, why they're in the game, but we don't even get to use the fucking ball. Why tennis and golf are certain games that we can play. Pong is literally the first game developed by Atari. Now, one reason why I'm making an Atari reference here is once again because of the Atari 2600. And even understanding that given the Pong game, it was given several different colors. But the point here is understanding the number of 2600. Even golf, you guys. Even golf. 1980s game towards the Atari 2600. A game simply called golf. Now, what's even more interesting about this golf game are elements of things that I've mentioned in the mystery and things that me and Herbalist have brought up in the mystery as well. Like a castle and or windmills. These are elements of miniature golf. Even aspects of a clown are tied towards miniature golf, you guys. But these are things that we are supposed to tie together so that we know that they are tied to the mystery. This is to point us in the right direction. But again, the Atari 2600 is something that we are supposed to understand. Now that we have made note within this game and the mystery that the Atari 2600 is what binds the connections, we can understand that 2600 is something that we are supposed to understand is relevant. So once understanding that, we can put it to use. And this use is to tie to something right back that we have in the game that they imply 1,000,000 times so that we can understand is relevant. The Atari 2600 brings leeway to 2600 BC, most notably in between 1900 BC and 2600 BC. Okay, the beginning is the creation of Manejo Daro, and this is a large water tank, okay? A public water tank that is a ritual bathing area. Now, I ask you, what does this have to do with the game, right? This is something that they've shown us 1,000,000 times in the game, you guys, and something that we now know has to do with the mystery. Now, I brought this place up before when mentioning aspects of why Franklin's ammo is capped off at a certain level, and that was the 25th century. Now, the 25th century was to make one more understanding to the pyramids of Giza, but I also mentioned the Mound of the Dead. Now, I wonder, once again, how many people took it upon themselves to look this up and make sure that it is relevant. It is an ancient cockfighting ritual ground, and it is possibly one of the first places that it ever took place. Now, understanding ethics of cockfighting is only one part of this place that we were supposed to understand. We were also supposed to understand the monuments that were known in this place. Now, when I say monuments of this place, I mean a great bath. It is one of the best known structures and or ruins of this place, but it housed gallons of water, collected water, and this ancient sacred place was honestly known to be the first public water tank in the ancient world. But I ask you, what is a public water tank if not a pool? You guys, this is the world's first pool. And now we understand that pools do have something to do with this mystery. So now we understand, you guys, they do not put fucking pools literally in everyone's fucking backyard for no goddamn reason. Alright? It's all implied, you guys. I'm sorry, but even rich people, not every single damn near person has some body of water. Alright? They make a point to keep referencing it for reasons for us to understand that a pool is relevant and why Michael, from the very beginning of the game, sits by a pool. And for anyone who thinks I'm really joking about the Great Bath and its significance toward pools, you really need to look it up, because even swimmingpool.com, out of all fucking sites, will tell you that it is the first pool ever created. Now, before I end this video, you guys, I want it to be known, okay? One thing that we have noticed throughout all of this mystery is that we need to look at things that are not even really existent anymore, but are things that are in the past. But one of the things that is most noted within Space Invaders that is really interesting is that there are point values for each bad guy that you shoot and or alien. But the last boss was always a mystery. Always. Even within 10 points, Trevor is known throughout the game to randomly say 10 points when he hits an animal. Now, I feel as though this could be somewhat of a reference toward this game. But as you know, the final UFO was always a mystery when actually defeated. They literally would question mark it, and it would be known as a mystery. Now, one thing that's really interesting, though, about the specific Space Invaders that I'm bringing up here is tied to the Atari 2600. And why I believe this one in particular is tying a lot of the aspects of the peach, from orange to red, and even the inversion of green. Now, the point here, though, is to understand ethics of the mystery and ethics of things that they're showing us. And that is certain features that were featured in the Atari 2600 version of Space Invaders. They are known for certain features like having 2 players, but the Atari 2600 version makes it special within certain aspects of features, like the invaders shooting curved shots. But that's not the important thing here. The important thing here is the feature that we have seen in GTA, and that is the invaders are known to go invisible. So realize, you guys, it is very, very, very interesting that they have the Atari 2600 version of Space Invaders be linked to all of these games, and also have invisible aliens, something that we know to be tied to the mystery.
I can hear the ships, but I can't find them. You think they're using a cloaking device?
Okay, so understand, for those of you who choose to discard this, who choose to say fuck this information because it's not true, because you're not seeing something like a jetpack, I want you to understand That is what I mean by thinking too physical. By discarding information based on not seeing something that you want to see. Just because it's something that doesn't look credible doesn't mean that it does not give you information based on your level of choice to believe or not. Understanding that retro games and Pac-Man was to be understood from the beginning can give us clues to things that we were supposed to tie together from the very beginning, like colors. That being red, pink, orange, and cyan. These things are tied, you guys, whether we want to believe them or not. But for those of you who choose to disbelieve, do understand you are not taking upon the rules of the mystery, and you are not segregating and rearranging at least the right things, like a mission called Pac-Man. Spread the truth.